guys, welcome to another WoW video. I'm just doing some stuff on my rogue today while we talk about today's biggest news. So I wanted to do a separate video for this since we're kind of taking a little break from the WoW Weekly news. And this is something I would have 100% put in that video and talked on. Today we got an announcement that Microsoft is acquiring Activision Blizzard for $70 billion. And this, as soon as I heard this, the first thing that came to mind was the Game Pass. Right? There's two big things that came to mind, and that's why we're doing this video, to share those. So the first one was the Game Pass, which I think could be a great thing. Granted, this whole deal, it's not 100% completed, and yeah, if anything, if WoW did come to the Game Pass, we probably would not see that for another couple of years at least, because this has to all kind of confirm, go through, and then, they work on, their next steps. So that was the first thing that came to mind, and I think something like that would be great because I personally know a lot of people who never gave WoW the time of day because of the sub cost. A lot of people who pay into something like Game Pass where they get access to a lot of games and they just can't fathom paying another subscription, right? And I totally get that. I'm kind of like that with streaming services. I started paying into Netflix, and then all of a sudden I was paying into Prime and then paying into Disney. And my most recent one is Paramount because I just discovered they exist. And then before you know it, I'm paying more than I was paying when I actually had cable, So I totally get it. Granted, that's a little different. Streaming services do provide a lot of stuff, but I get not wanting to be part of a bazillion subscription bases. So I think something like that would be really great. The second thing that of course came to mind, and I'm sure it came to many people's minds, is the possibility of WoW being on the Xbox, which has been more or less a running joke for a long time, but some of the worst jokes do come true. And to be perfectly honest, I feel like you can't sit back and read this kind of news announcement without thinking that, especially when you see some of the MMOs that are out there, like Final Fantasy and Elder Scrolls. I personally feel like WoW will never hit a console. And maybe that's my wishful thinking. I just never want it to. And I'll tell you why, and why I think WoW would do horrible on one. Meanwhile, games like Final Fantasy 14 and Elder Scrolls do fine. Now, the biggest thing here, in my opinion, is that Final Fantasy was always a console game. That's the roots of Final Fantasy. So it was kind of, they probably more or less built it for the console and then adapted it to PC. Whereas WoW was built for PC. Hell, I bought a specific mouse, a specific MMO gaming mouse just to play the game. After years of, using pretty much all the keys on my keyboard, I eventually just bought a mouse that can, kind of half-ass help me out there, right? And that alone should tell you that they would have a hard time porting WoW over to a console, because while I'm not going to sit back and say it's impossible, obviously others have done it, but those games, as far as I can tell anyway, I can't talk much on Final Fantasy XIV because for whatever reason it just never hooked me. But I do like the solo player games for Final Fantasy. But Elder Scrolls I have played a little bit. One thing I have noticed is that everything is doable on a controller, and I just don't think that that would be the case with WoW. Me personally, I think if it did go to console, we're looking at a reborn WoW. You know, I think they would have to completely gut the system and remake World of Warcraft. I just don't see how they could at all do it on a console. And I also think they would lose a lot of people by putting it on a console. It just might not play very well on a console, you know? It's kind of like Diablo. Diablo is a good example. It's not an MMO, but it's, you know, a very popular Blizzard game that went to console. And as someone who has played a shit ton of Diablo on PC, and also not quite as much on console, but a good chunk, I've got over 100 hours probably on my PlayStation Diablo. And I've played it on PlayStation, I've played it on Xbox, and I've played it on PC because I love Diablo. And I will say that it is tougher to do things on a console. You know, all the people that like rank up in the leaderboards in that game, I'm impressed. I'm like always super impressed that they managed to clear those crater rifts at a high number on a controller, you know, because I won't say it's not playable. Obviously, you can play it. I have played it. But I will say that anytime I want to do like leaderboard stuff, I go to the PC. Like, there's no way I touch leaderboard stuff on the console. So I think that's kind of what would happen. It would either be like a destruction on WoW, or you just would divide your community, because raiders and stuff like that, I don't think there's any way they would do that on a console. You know? Yeah. Every time I think of all the different aspects of WoW, I'm just like, I don't know how they would do that. Like, I guess they'll just have to show me one day when they port it over to the console, because, like, me thinking about it, I'm just like, there's no way. There's no way you could. WoW is not really simplified. At least with Diablo, at least there was, you know, just a few different things you did. But in WoW, there's so many different things you do. You know, questing, mount farming, you know, pet battles, raiding, PvP, all that. And not to say that that couldn't be ported, but I do think raiding and PvP is going to be a tough one, you know, and M+. Like, those three things right there, I would love to see how they port that well onto a console. That's all I really care to ramble on today, so let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think this is a good change, a bad change? What would you like to see them do eventually? I will say I've seen some comments of, oh, maybe the next expansion will finally be good. Stuff doesn't happen that quickly, you know? Like, if you're gonna, you know, give credit to them, to Microsoft, for a good expansion, you're gonna have to wait for the one after this next one, because, like, yeah, things just don't happen that fast. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video, so I hope you enjoyed. Have a great one, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.